You could feel the anger tonight at a Board of Trustees meeting in Thornton Township. The board and citizens looking for accountability to their finances, while the township supervisor.
But it saddens my heart that you are up here at this special meeting and not downstairs where we have big bingo.
Can you believe the drama unfolding in Dolton, Illinois? If you haven't been following the saga of Mayor Tiffany Henyard, you're in for a wild ride. Buckle up, because this story has everything: financial scandals, federal investigations, and a mayor who's gone from local hero to the center of a storm that might just sweep her out of office.
Coming in, unfortunately, we knew it was going to be a little messy, but it's just something we felt important that had to be done, that should be done. But like I said, you have just some accountability.
So here's the scoop. Dolton, a small village that's supposed to be just another quiet suburb, is now in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. And at the center of it all is Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who's been accused of turning a once prosperous village into a financial disaster zone. Just a few years ago, Dolton was sitting pretty with a multi-million-dollar surplus. Fast forward to today, and the village is drowning in debt, over $3.5 million in the red. And where is Henyard while all this is going down? Nowhere to be found. That's right, the mayor has gone Mia just when the heat is turning up.
So that's one of the reasons I won't know when we go through our board packets. It's like, some of this stuff, it's like you don't know exactly what it's for, and then when you ask a question, there's no answer.
Let's rewind a bit. Henyard's rise to power wasn't exactly smooth. She didn't come into the mayoral office by winning over the voters with charm and policies. Nope, she was appointed under some pretty shady circumstances. It all started after the sudden passing of the previous mayor, Frank Zuccarelli. The Thornton Township Board, which had the responsibility of appointing a new mayor, was deeply divided. Time was running out. And in a last-minute move, trustee Christopher Gonzalez nominated Henyard, who was pretty much a nobody in the local political scene. She wasn't even the first choice.
Hey guys, this is Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard, the people's mayor and people's supervisor.
But with the clock ticking, the board reluctantly agreed, and just like that, Henyard was sworn in as mayor minutes before midnight. Talk about slipping in through the back door. And here's where things start to get murky. As soon as Henyard took office, she wasted no time flexing her new powers. One of her first moves, firing key officials who had been close to the former mayor. These weren't just any employees, they were long-standing figures in the village's administration, people with deep roots and plenty of experience. But Henyard didn't care. She saw them as threats, people who could challenge her newfound authority, and she wasn't about to let that happen. So she kicked them out with no explanation, leaving everyone shocked and speculating about her true motives.
Is there a motion to terminate Keith Freeman?
The village of Dolton quickly turned into Henyard's personal playground, where she ruled with an iron fist, taking down anyone who stood in her way. Rumors started flying that she had a personal vendetta against those who had supported the previous mayor, especially anyone who tried to guide her through the responsibilities of her new position. It didn't take long for the public to notice that things were going downhill fast. Henyard wasn't just shaking things up, she was tearing them down.
I think you should pay everybody. Is it the reason why you guys are not paying whatever that vendor is?
What was it for?
It was for shirts. That's what it's for. You just got it.
They knew what they were doing, and they thought they can get away with it.
But firing a few employees was just the beginning. Henyard's actions after taking office painted a picture of someone who was either completely out of her depth or someone who simply didn't care about the consequences of her actions. She began surrounding herself with loyalists, people who would do her bidding without question. And boy, did they do her bidding. From locking out township officials from their offices to allegedly intimidating anyone who dared to oppose her, Henyard's administration quickly gained a reputation for being hostile and vindictive. Things really started to unravel when financial reports showed that Dolton's once healthy budget had plunged into a massive deficit. How does a village go from a $5.6 million surplus to being $3.65 million in debt in just 2 years? That's the question everyone's asking, and the fingers are all pointing at Henyard. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who was brought in as a special investigator to dig into Dolton's finances, didn't hold back in her preliminary findings.
The township residents are paying for her fund.
Lightfoot revealed that Henyard had been spending taxpayer money like it was going out of style. We're talking about lavish trips, expensive dinners, and shopping sprees that would make a Kardashian blush. And all of it was charged to the village's credit card.
No reason for anyone from a township to go to a mayor's conference. A mayor's conference is a mayor's conference for mayors.
One jaw-dropping detail from Lightfoot's investigation. Henyard dropped $33,000 in a single day on Amazon. Let that sink in. $33,000 on who knows what, all on the taxpayer's dime.
Who would make a one-day purchase of over $40,000 to Amazon? And the main thing is, what is it?
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There were also massive overtime payments to certain police officers, some of whom earned more in overtime than they did in their base salaries. One officer pulled in $114,800 in overtime pay alone. It's no wonder the village's finances are in shambles. But Henyard wasn't content with just emptying the village's coffers. She also took it upon herself to reappoint a disgraced deputy police chief, Louis Lacey, who was already facing federal charges for bankruptcy fraud.
An illegal appointment, that's what the trustees I talked to are calling this. They say the news took them by surprise, and now they're talking to legal counsel to figure out their next steps.
The village trustees had placed Lacey on administrative leave, but Henyard, in a move that defied all logic, reinstated him and ordered the police department to follow his lead. When trustees tried to fire Lacey again, he just kept showing up to work like nothing happened. The chaos reached a point where Henyard was recorded telling the police to stop playing these silly games and obey Lacey, despite his legal troubles and the clear vote of no confidence from the trustees.
Mr. Lacey is absolutely not guilty of all 9 counts. I believe he's cooperating. And if you cooperate, you have to admit your guilt first.
Henyard's allies weren't safe from scrutiny either. Keith Freeman, her top aide and the village administrator, was also caught up in his own legal troubles. Freeman was charged with bankruptcy fraud, and it was revealed that he had been paid more than what was budgeted during his tenure in another village. Yet, despite all of this, Henyard kept him on board, further fueling suspicions that her administration was less about public service and more about protecting her inner circle. As the financial scandal grew, so did the public's outrage. Residents started calling Henyard the Dolton dictator, accusing her of running the village into the ground while living a life of luxury on their dime. And it wasn't just the financial mismanagement that had people up in arms. Henyard was also embroiled in a harassment and retaliation lawsuit. A former employee accused one of Henyard's allies of inappropriate conduct during a work trip to Las Vegas, and when the victim spoke out, she was fired. The scandal only added to the perception that Henyard was willing to go to any lengths to silence her critics and maintain her grip on power.
Deep debt, and that is the finding of an investigation of village finances and the spending habits of beleaguered Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
With all these scandals swirling around her, it's no surprise that the feds took notice. The FBI launched an investigation into Henyard's activities, serving subpoenas to Dolton and Thornton Township for a wide range of records, from payroll and expenses to employment and credit card transactions. The investigation is ongoing, but the fact that federal agents are involved has only heightened the drama. Henyard has tried to brush off the investigations as politically motivated attacks, claiming that she's being targeted because she's a black woman in a position of power. But her critics aren't buying it. They say this isn't about race, it's about corruption and the blatant misuse of public funds. Former supporters of Henyard have also turned against her, with some even admitting they regret ever backing her in the first place. One vocal community member, Sherry Britton, who initially supported Henyard, later called her a tyrant and dictator. Britton wasn't alone. Many residents who once had high hopes for Henyard have since lost faith, seeing her as someone who has betrayed their trust and is more interested in lining her own pockets than serving the community. As the walls close in on Henyard, the pressure is mounting from all sides. The Illinois State Comptroller, Susana Mendoza, took the extraordinary step of freezing state funds allocated to Dolton because of the village's failure to file financial reports for the past 2 years. Mendoza didn't mince words, saying that Henyard's refusal to comply with state law was putting the people of Dolton at risk. She warned that if the village doesn't get its act together, it could face fines totaling nearly $80,000. That's money Dolton clearly can't afford to lose, especially when it's already drowning in debt. The public's patience is wearing thin, and protests demanding Henyard's resignation have grown louder. At a recent village board meeting, things got so heated that the room had to be cleared after police said there were credible threats. The 4 trustees who have been pushing for an investigation into Henyard's conduct walked out in protest, accusing Henyard of violating the public's right to participate in the meeting. Henyard, of course, dismissed the walkout as adding to the chaos, but it's clear that her administration is in a state of complete disarray. And then there's the involvement of former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Hired as a special investigator, Lightfoot is digging deep into the mess that Henyard has created. While she doesn't have the authority to bring criminal charges, Lightfoot's findings could very well be handed over to the authorities, potentially leading to even more legal trouble for Henyard. Lightfoot has already exposed enough shady dealings to make it clear that Henyard's administration is teetering on the edge of collapse. But despite all this, Henyard remains defiant. She's still clinging to power, still denying any wrongdoing, and still trying to paint herself as the victim of a smear campaign. But how long can she keep up this act? The investigations are closing in, the public's anger is boiling over, and even her closest allies are facing legal battles of their own. It's only a matter of time before Henyard's house of cards comes tumbling down.
Sometimes we get invoices, but those invoices lead to more questions, and sometimes we don't get answers to those questions. And so it's not about clickbait, it's about just making sure the right thing is.
So what do you think? Will Tiffany Henyard finally face the consequences of her actions, or will she somehow manage to escape the mess she's created? And with all these scandals piling up, do you think Dolton will ever recover from her chaotic reign? Let everyone know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.